the virus for a long time. And now we're able to kind of start to bloom. And so this is the really beginning of that. So thank you for being here. And Pastor Jeff, if you'd lead us in prayer, please.
Sure. Let us pray. Gracious God, we have taken this time to worship and give you praise, and now we pause to be about the work of the church that you have called us to be. We ask, Lord, that you guide us in your spirit as we form a vision, as we be about the mundane tasks of business, but we lift them that they might be blessed in your eyes and become part of a vision and part of a process that leads us to share your love with others. Fill us now in our time together. Bless our words, our discussions. Bless our time of reflection. May it be a foundation for us as we move forward into the future that you are already preparing for us. For we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for our past 4 congregational meetings. I would ask that we would be able to approve these as a whole instead of each one individually. So if anyone has any objections to that, let me know and we can do it individually. Yeah, Mike.
We only need to approve the final 2. The first 2 were approved.
Okay, that's why Mike is here. He keeps me in order. Okay. So is it okay to approve the last 2 jointly? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the congregational meetings from November and December of this past year, 21? Mary Landis. Do I have a second? Barbara Hunsberger. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it carries. Even though we just approved the minutes, does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Okay. We're going to move, we have a treasurer's report. Pat?
Well, we'll keep this short. In your booklet that has been around, all I had, because I was only appointed in December, and I had to have a report in January. So that didn't leave me a whole lot of room. What you see in the financial report are the amounts for the end of December. Obviously, as your bank account and the church's bank account, these numbers have changed in January and will change in February. Actually, St. Stephen's is in good shape. There's some things that need to be tweaked, but for the most part, you should be proud of yourselves in your giving and your time and talents, and to say that financially we are in good shape. Now, that being said, we will be paying the mortgage off in about 4 months, give or take. I'm not locking myself to a specific day, but that's good. But those of you who have been donating to the mortgage, we ask that moving forward, there will be an improvement or building fund, and that you continue to give to the improvement and building fund. Obviously, we have a building which will need maintenance. So it's always good to have a little fund somewhere, you know, in your own home. When things get down and everything, the washer goes, the dryer goes, the dishwasher goes, they all seem to go at once. So we're asking that you continue to give, even though the mortgage is paid off, to build up a fund for those emergency times. And we know we have some things coming down the road, but you never know when a door flies off. You know what I mean? We've all faced that at home, so we face that here at church. As far as our fidelity funds, yes, we're all facing the craziness of the world these days, but I learned a while ago, around 2008 when we had our crash then, from a very wise and actually a wealthy man, and he said, Pat, don't sweat it, stick it out. And yes, our funds may be down, but if you have patience and you're calm, they will come back. And they did. So I'm asking the same for you. Even though our funds might be down because of the world's craziness, we just sit tight, we're patient, and they'll come back. Other than that, I am learning. I've only been on board for a couple of months. I am digging deeper into various items on the special funds list. So there will be tweaking done because I'm here. But nothing is disastrous. You have a good foundation, and that is a wonderful thing. If you have any questions and you have a computer, I have my email address there. You are more than welcome to send me an email. Introduce yourself, tell me who you are, and ask your question, and give me some time to find it. If you don't have a computer, and some may not, just write a note and give it to me, and we'll work it out. Does anyone have any other questions at this moment? Are you okay? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Pastor Jeff, would you like to give your report, please?
Sure. So you have a written report in front of you. I want to expand on some of the things that are there, but I want to first say thank you. I want to thank you as a congregation for your flexibility, for your understanding, for your willingness to roll, as they say, with everything that has been happening in the world around us. By no means are we through this pandemic yet, but the light is there, and we're finding that things are getting brighter by the day. So we thank you for that. We thank you for your continued support. I thank you for the support that you've given me through this, and for your flexibility and your vision of a new tomorrow. As we gather here this morning, there are signs of that new tomorrow around us. The screens that are above me that we've been using in worship, the lights that have brightened the front of the sanctuary, the upgrades to the sound system that are coming. These are all ways by which we create a window of what happens here at St. Stephen's for others to see. It's been exciting over the past year to have those times of connection outside of the church building, those times of connection with the community around us. And you're going to see a video with some of those moments in a few minutes. Those moments are ways in which the community then gets to see what happens here among us as well. For us as a congregation, this has been a time of change. It's been a time of loss. We are at a position right now where in the last 7 weeks we've buried 7 of our members, and our thoughts and prayers are with each of those families, and our hearts are heavy for that. We look to the coming year for the opportunities that we have to be with one another, to grow together in faith, to continue to be about the work that God calls us to. So what is exciting to me right now in the life of St. Stephen's is we have a consistory that works very well together, that has been functioning as a team in all the decision-making that we've made up to this point, and that is now looking at the ways in which we do our ministries. What works, what needs to change, what is God calling us to in a new vision of who we'll be for tomorrow. And so I'm excited to see how that will play out over the coming months as we begin to take these first steps into the future that God is preparing for us. I am blessed to serve among you. I am blessed that you all have continued to be connected in the church. I want to say a special thank you to Heather Nagami for the work that she and Mark have done with our worship tablet ministry to keep those connected in the life of the church that have not been able to join us on technology, but to take it into their homes. And that was a very innovative program that Heather and Mark came up with, and we brought into life. And so we celebrate that. Those are the innovative ways in which the church continues to morph itself through everyday living in this 21st century that we're in. And we hope to see more of those avenues develop among us as we seek to connect with our members who are not able to be with us present and physically here, but also as we seek to connect to new faces and new stories that will interact with our own. So I look forward to the journey that God is bringing us on together, and I pray God's blessings upon each one of us. I thank you for your forgiveness for the times that I've missed the mark, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue to walk in ministry with you through the year ahead. Peace.
Thank you. The President's report. I want to just thank Consistory and the chairs of all our ministries and all our ministry members, as well as the congregation. It has been a challenging year, and yet with all the challenges, we have been able, I think, to really do a great job at continuing to move forward. Baby steps, but we have continued to move forward, and we couldn't have done it without everyone's help. I will do, under old business, I will give you an update on our progress with the Keystone settlement. I'll talk about the parsonage. I think most of you were handed out a sheet on parsonage options, so we'll talk a little bit about that under old business, and also the basement, and looking ahead of what needs to be done. So at this point, I just really want to thank everyone, and I will ask Wendy to do the faith formation report. Thank you.
And I would actually like to start off the ministry reports with our video.
Sometimes I think, what will people say of me when I'm only just a memory, when I'm home where my soul belongs? Was I loved when no one else would show up? Was I Jesus to the least of us? Was my worship more than just a song? I wanna live like that and give it all I have, so that everything I say and do points to you. If love is who I am, then this is where I stand, recklessly abandoned, never holding back. I live like that and give it all I have, so that everything I say and do points to you. If love is who I am, then this is where I stand. Recklessly abandoned, never holding back. I wanna live like that. I wanna live like that. I wanna live like
So who says we didn't do a lot in the last year? And those were only things I had pictures of. So many more things happened, and so many more things are going to happen. It's an exciting time. On to faith formation. You can read the report. I just want to make a couple highlights. It's interesting when Pastor Jeff said that we lost 7 members already this year. There were 7 babies born in the last 2 years into the congregation. 2 more on the way. Actually, both of them due pretty soon, so it's a really exciting time. We reinstituted Cradle Roll this year. Heather and Betsy have taken over that, and we're keeping in touch with them, hoping to bring them in. When they turn 3, we're going to have a big Sunday school class, we hope. In the basement, we did lose a lot of our Sunday school supplies, and so we do have a wish list on Amazon. So if you go on that wish list, please help us out. It's going to be really great to restock things, and we have a lot of missions planned for the upcoming year, and a lot of those things are supplies building toward those missions. Like I said, you can read the rest of the report. So does anyone have anything on faith formation? All right, thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful slideshow. Thank you very much. Kurt, would you like to give the facilities report, please?
Good morning. Facilities, of course, this year was rather quiet. The building was closed most of the time, so we didn't have a lot that we had to be concerned about until we got later in the year and the rainstorms started coming, which of course created a huge problem for us down in the basement, and the fact that we had water running across the floor. So that became our big project for the year. But I would like to thank the people who actually served on this behind-the-scenes committee. Jerry Holzerman, who was our chair up until September and then had to step away. And then Jerry Treffinger stepped up and took over as being chairman of that. Myself, Brian Taylor, who is one of those silent people that just comes in and does stuff that we ask him to do, and then moves on. Mike Wesley, who helps us out every time he can. It's just we sometimes forget where he is, so he gets left out sometimes on him, not intentionally. And then Carol Horrocks, who coordinated with Debbie's cleaning to try and at least keep our sanctuary somewhat clean while things were going on. I have a couple things to bring up under either old or new business, but I won't present you with those now. And I'd like to thank the congregation for all their help when we asked for taking care of projects here at the church. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Brenda Hibbs. Is Brenda here? There's Brenda.
Well, the first thing for fellowship and service is that our name is going to be changed to Fellowship and Outreach.
Speak into the mic a little bit or pull us down.
Sorry. There, how's that? Okay, our name is going to be now Fellowship and Outreach. So that's something new. Our organization didn't do very much this year. We were allowed to do cookies and cocoa for the first time in a couple of years, and it was extremely successful, as you saw with Wendy's slideshow. And we were able to do the Historical Society dinner for December. And so that will be starting again. We're going to do one the first Tuesday in March, and so we will be continuing with that. Our division consists of the Circle of Sharing organizers and Easter plants and the Helping Hands. Carol Horrocks does the Helping Hands. Easter plants, Sharon Argue, and Elfrida Benner and I have been organizing Circle of Sharing. Things are going to change. I just wanted to point out that we're going to change the way we do Circle of Sharing. We are going to try and do a self-service area where people can go and prepare their own coffee and get their own snacks. And we would like to try and do a special Circle of Sharings for different times of the year. I'm hoping to do a special Circle of Sharing for Easter, if we can work that out. So that will be coming. And that's really everything for our division. But, almost forgot. I wanted to add to the annual report that we've been sending, several people in our division have been sending cards regularly to the individuals, that family and friends. So I wanted to point that out. And also, our meetings are going to be after service on the first Sunday of the month. Our meetings are usually very short, and our first one will be next Sunday, and it will be a real short one because I want to attend John's presentation too, so I don't want to interfere with that. So it will be a very short meeting, and I'd like to try and get people who are interested in being in our division to maybe sign up and let me know what they would like to do, if they would like to participate in the monthly planning meetings or be a person who helps as needed. So that's everything. Is there any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Brenda. Sparky.
I'm one of those really short people, I know. Just for missions, you do have the report. It's written here, and it's pretty long, actually. We do a lot in this church, which is wonderful. But before I go any further on that, I want to look at Wendy and say that, why can't I think of the term for the visual thing we saw? But it really showed how we work together on various projects. It's not just faith. It maybe is faith and missions and all the different groups, fellowship and service falls in there. It really is nice to see that we do work as a community, which is wonderful. So back to missions. I hope you can read it. I know that Bev just told you we've continued with our mission outreach through our cans and our sock. What was it, Bev? Something like 139 pounds or something? 98 pounds of food with about 50 pounds of other food. And we have socks that will be going into Philly very soon. So we've continued through into this year. And just to let you know that probably our next the next focus we're going to have for missions is disaster relief during Lent. We're going to see if we can, there's been a lot of disasters, and we're going to see if we can collect some funds and put it towards disaster relief. Okay? And all this wouldn't work if it wasn't how all of you help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sparky. Mike?
I would like to thank many of our members who join us every second Wednesday of the month. We meet over Zoom, and we have wonderful conversations. So if you're open, you would like to be part of worship and music, we'd love to have you. The second thing I'd like to thank our leaders, those who lead us. I think Pastor Jeff and John, over the last 2 years, have been challenged more than they've ever been challenged before. And I thank you, and I thank Pastor Jeff for all the work they've been doing. It's been amazing on that. Again, the report's in here. You can see some of the things that we have done over the past year that I wanted to highlight. And as you can see, the highlight, the bell choir was today, and thank you for members of the bell choir. It's excellent today. We've added Joys and Concerns, and thank you for those of us who are contributing with Joys and Concerns. Secret Pals, Pandemic Wanderings, for those of you who wanted to walk the town. That was me walking the town during the pandemic. The cranes, which we still have hanging up for that. Falls Festival, Christmas tree lighting, and just wonderful things that we've been able to do. As we move forward into our new year and this year, I think what we need to do is continue moving out, taking things that we do within the church and sharing with others. They can be small things that you can see outside we're doing in the fall. Continue looking for that. Continue to look for ways that we can connect with our community. And if you have ideas, please share it. Share it with me, share it with Pastor Jeff, share it with John, share it with Wendy, share it with any one of us. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions from our worship and music? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Oops. The Sanctuary Committee, Sparky or Nancy Rourke? Okay. Stewardship. Stewardship has met during the year on a monthly basis. A big thank you to Judy Ockenfuss and Barb Buchner for their leadership. Other committee members I'd like to thank are Sharon Argue, who has done a great job with our Vanco, Jerry Treffinger, Pat Snyder, Lucy White, some of our counters, Elfrida Benner, Heather, Eileen Schuster, Debbie, Dottie Egan. That's what happens when you're not wearing your glasses. Mary Landis, and of course, Pastor Jeff. If I missed anyone, I apologize. The Stewardship Committee is really looking for new members. We're looking at how we do things and whether they still meet the requirements of the church, so to speak. And so there really isn't anything to report other than what has been in your annual report and what Pat has said. And then there's some things we'll talk about a little bit under old business. Okay, so now we are under old business. So we have reached a settlement with Keystone Opportunity Center. We had been going back and forth with them since 2019, like 2020. It's been a while. And we have gone back and forth, and what we wanted is we wanted to have the expenses reimbursed that we put out for the family that was living in the parsonage. All the utilities, the first and last month's rent that the church gave to the family so that they could relocate. And then we added income for rent. They came back to us with an offer of $4,000, and we said that was not acceptable. We gave them an offer. We proposed a counter offer and said that that was our final offer. We were not going to go back and forth and bicker about this. Either they accepted that or we would go to arbitration. They came back and offered us $10,000. And after talking with our attorney, we felt that that was a fair amount. Not what we wanted, but we didn't expect to get everything we wanted. But that covers all the expenses that we had to put out for the parsonage, plus a little bit extra. And so we agreed, consistory voted that we would accept it. Our attorney has drawn up papers, and we're waiting for all the legal papers to be put together and signed. And then we will be receiving a check for $10,000 from Keystone Opportunity Center for the expenses that we had to put out. Does anybody have any questions about that? Comments? Our bill, I should share with you, the bill for our attorney was $1,500. He originally said, the original price per hour was $300 an hour, and he took it down to $150 an hour for the church. When we finally reached a settlement, apparently in the law profession, there is a 25%, an attorney can take 25% of whatever money is received. And he said that he didn't want to do that, and that he would again lower it to just the $1,500. We have an itemized bill, which is several pages long, so everything is documented, and they do bill in increments of minutes, not hours. And so I think we're really fortunate that we got really great legal service for such a small amount. And so Bill Dudek was our attorney, and he is from Eastburn and Gray in Doylestown, and they have done a great job. They are also working with us on the subdivision for the parsonage, and that we are also getting at a discounted rate, but hopefully that will be resolved much quicker than Keystone. Any questions? Okay. We are, consistory is looking at revising the bylaws. We started that at our retreat, and as Brenda said, we expect that some names of ministries might change, some responsibilities might be moved around, some might be added, some might be deleted. And as we work through that process, we'll keep you updated. When we're ready to present it to the congregation, we will present any proposed changes to you. You will receive a copy of the current bylaws, and then wherever a change will be made, it will be put in bold and underlined so that you won't have to go back and forth and figure out where things fit. It'll all be there for you to look at. We'll give it to you, of course, in advance, so if you have any questions, you can let us know, and then we will hold a congregational meeting. We have not heard anything from Trinity UCC, Telford Trinity UCC. In the past year, you can remember they had contacted us and asked us to be part of their dream team because they were thinking of how they were going to maintain their church and all their activities. And we haven't heard anything back from them in a year, so we're assuming that they've made arrangements with another church or have done something, but we have not been in touch with them. The parsonage. So what you have, what I think if you don't have a copy, let us know. What we would like to do is not continue to wait to see what the borough decides. Right now, Percy Borough has, their attorney has told our attorney that they will not oppose the subdivision. They are very pleased that we are looking to, I don't think how to say this. They would very much like us not to tear down the building. They very much would like the building to stay, and so they are not going to oppose the subdivision. Now, the subdivision, for those of you who aren't sure, if you look at those beautiful stained glass windows on that side, they go into the parsonage parcel by a few feet. And right now, this is considered, when the addition was built, we asked Percy Borough to consider this all one parcel, which they did. We cannot sell the parsonage now because our building extends over and we can't do that. So we have to ask for a subdivision. We've had an engineer come out and did the whatever reports that they do, and the borough is pleased. And so what we've asked now is from the borough is to please tell us what other tests, anything else that you need, because we don't want to spend money on things that we think they might need if they don't need it. And at this point, we're waiting for Percy Borough to get back to us. It takes a while because they meet monthly, and if you're not on the agenda 1 month, you wait another month. But we're hoping in the next month or two, we will have a final decision on whether we can sell the parsonage. That doesn't mean we will sell the parsonage, it just allows us to sell it. So what you have are the three options that we had talked about previously. We can either raise the parsonage, tear it down, and use it for something else. It has been suggested it could be used for a parking lot, which according to the borough, we could probably get 11 or 12 cars, and that's all. We can raise it, we can sell it as is, or we can retain it. And we can retain it for rental use or for church use. So I tried to list all the pros and cons of if we keep it. Raising it, there weren't really that many pros or cons, or selling it. And so I really focused on, if we want to keep it, what it will cost us. And I think it's something people need to think about. And I didn't want to give it to you, a week before we were going to have a discussion. I wanted you to have at least a preliminary idea of what the pros and cons were for the three options. We couldn't think as a consistory of any other options. If somebody else has one, this is, if not today, I've listed the members of consistory. Please reach out to any one of them and give them your thoughts. But what I would like to do today is take a straw vote, because looking at the prices of things takes a lot of time. And to be honest, we don't have a lot of people who have the time to go out and get estimates and meet people at the parsonage, and it's just an awful lot of work. So what I'd like to do is, this is of course a straw vote. It is non-binding by any means, but it will give us an idea of what you're thinking. And if you're thinking that you want to sell it, fine, then we'll look at what that entails. I mean, who's going to, we're going to most likely, if we decide to sell it as is. And I know Jerry Treffinger has been good at talking to some people who have been doing renovations in homes similar to the parsonage around town. So we can get some estimates. We can get estimates about raising it. Both the juries got some preliminary estimates over a year ago, and that price is in there. So if that's something that you think you want to do, then we're going to go out and we're going to get more accurate estimates. Also with, it's not just tearing down the building, it's also what do we do? If we make it a parking lot, then we need to pay for the paving. There might be drainage issues, those kinds of things. If we decide to make it in a lawn and use it for outdoor services or something, it would need to be graded and landscaped, and then whether we put a pavilion up or anything, those are all additional costs. And then if we rent it, what the pros and cons are of renting it. And one of the big issues if we rent it is the issue that we faced with Keystone, and that's an ethical issue. If the parsonage is rented and the renter does not pay their rent, do we evict somebody from the parsonage? Now, we could get a realtor who would handle that, but again, it's still the church giving the realtor the go-ahead to evict. So are we prepared as a congregation to do that? If we use it for community outreach, for some kind of social need, what does that mean in terms of volunteers, one, to help do things? Because if you look around, we are an older congregation for the most part. And so what is realistic and what is practical are two different things. And there are lots of pros and cons, and at this point, consistory is not weighing in one way or the other. We want to hear what you would like at this point, and then we'll get estimates. We'll try to narrow it down and get better information for you so that when we have another meeting and we can discuss this and vote, you'll have more accurate information than what you have now. Does anybody have any questions about where we're going with this process? Okay. This is really a monumental decision that we're going to have to make, because many of us sitting here right now have strong memories and strong connections to the parsonage. And so it won't be an easy decision, and we really would appreciate hearing your thoughts. Okay, so Mike, would you help me count? So again, this is just a straw vote to see if you were to vote today, where you would vote. And that's only to help us figure out where we need to put our energy. So all those will do it by, and they are not listed I numbered them 1, 2, and 3, but the numbers are just for this purpose. They're not ranked in order of how consistory would see them. So how many of you, first choice would be to demolish the parsonage? Raise your hand. Okay. Can you put your hands up again so Mike can count them? Okay. How many of you would want to sell the parsonage as is? Okay, and how many of you would like to retain ownership of the parsonage? Raise your hands. Okay, thank you. So from the raise of hands, you could see yourself, it looked like there were more people in favor of selling the parsonage as is. So we will, I will ask probably Kurt and Facilities and Management to kind of begin to talk to some people about interest in buying it, and what we need to do and to be prepared to sell it in the event that we get the subdivision. So the second vote is if the subdivision is declined and we are not able to not able to sell it, would you prefer to tear it down and do something else with that land? We don't have to decide today whether it be a parking lot or a garden or whatever, but tear it down, or would you prefer to retain ownership and use it for rental or a community outreach? So as a second choice, all those in favor of either tearing it down or using it for a community outreach and retain our ownership. All those in favor of tearing it down, raise your hands, please. Okay, And all those in favor of, if we cannot sell it, retaining it and either renting it out or using it for community outreach, raise your hands. Okay. So what I would ask you to consider is churches are very unique entities because they are a place of faith, and that's where we come to worship and praise God. But at the same time, it is a place that has to be run like a business to a certain extent. This is a large building, and just like what Pat was saying about homes, it's going to need repair over the years just from wear and tear. If we decide that we want to keep the parsonage and use it for outreach, that's going to cost a great deal of money. It's going to cost probably in the range of $80,000 to bring it up to code. It is not accessible if we are going to rent it. It needs to be up to code, and it needs to be accessible. If we rent it out, the same things are true. There'd have to be accessible bathrooms. There have to be accessibility. If you look at the parsonage, if you use a wheelchair, how do you get into the parsonage? And the reality is right now you can't. You can go up the driveway and around the back, but that door isn't really accessible. So when you think about things, it's balancing our faith and our desire to do good work with the reality of how are we going to pay for this, not just in dollars, but in time. People really volunteering on a regular basis to do whatever would need to be done. But thank you for looking the paper over and for your consideration. And as soon as we hear from Percy Borough, we will let you know. We'll let, of course, Pastor Jeff know, and he'll put something out, so we'll know right away. So we talked about the bylaws, Trinity UCC. The other thing to consider is we now have the basement that's been totally cleaned and it's empty. So what do we put in there? If we were to sell the parsonage, and these are ifs, if we were to sell the parsonage, we could take, if you wanted to, some of that money and use it to recreate the basement for the next 5 years or 10 years. What do we need? You know, what should we do in the basement? And what that would look like, and we wouldn't have to borrow money, we wouldn't have to do anything, we would have the revenue from the sale of the parsonage. So that's one thing to consider. There's so many elements to consider. The other thing is to consider, if we can't sell the parsonage, what do we do with the basement? Because we can't leave it the way it is for any serious amount of time, or we're just going to create more mold. So what do we do with that space that brings the community in, that helps expand our programs? What do we do? So those are issues we'd like you to think about, because they just all, I look at it like a lava lamp. For those of us from the 60s and 70s, those lava lamps where, you know, the bubbles go up and down and they break off and then they attach to something else and they break off and they get bigger and smaller. That's what this whole thing is like. It's like this very fluid thing. Every time we think we're at one point, something breaks off or something is added on. So we'll figure that out, but we really do want your input. Pastor Jeff, do you have anything under old business?
No. Kurt does.
Excuse me?
Kurt did.
Oh, Kurt? Yes.
Okay, old business. If you looked into any of the back meetings, we approved $20,000 for air conditioning. I want to make you aware that there is a possibility come spring we may need to be replacing the office air. I'm sorry. I didn't know you couldn't. Thank you. I'm trying to be quiet. I'm sorry. If you look back into some of the older business things there, you'll see that we approved $20,000 for air conditioning repair. This is both the office and the sanctuary were having issues with the air conditioning. So there is a possibility come this spring that we may have to do something because we've been kind of band-aiding it the past couple of years to keep the costs down. But the people who are doing that are telling us that that may not keep working. And it seems like every spring we have to redo the Freon in at least the office air conditioning. So I want to make you aware that we may have to spend that money this coming year. The other issue, which I'll do under old business only because I'm here now, we have an issue in the cemetery right now where we have dead trees. So we are going to have to look into having those trees taken down before we have an issue where somebody possibly gets hit with a branch or we damage something in the cemetery. So we had a tree company come in and take a look at it, and we're looking at possibly having to spend $1,800 to have 8 trees taken down and or trimmed to keep the cemetery safe. There also is dead branches in the tree over at the parsonage. That tree company is going to take care of that tree at no cost to us. So I just want to make you aware of those things. But thank you.
The tree issue, Jerry Treffinger let me know about the tree issue, I want to say Friday, and Kurt and Jerry were up there looking at it. So we have money in the cemetery account. We have, well, it changes on a daily basis, but we have approximately $120,000 in our cemetery account. So the spiritual council just gave the go-ahead for the $1,800. I think, if I'm right, Kurt, there's 4 dead ash trees, and then there are branches from trees that are hanging over onto Market Street, coming down Cemetery Hill, that need to be cut back.
There's 8 trees total in the cemetery that need to be addressed. 2 of them need to be pruned, 6 need to come down.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead. We've already approved that $1,800, so we are on the list. As you know, anytime now, you just can't call and they'll come out. So we're on a list, so we expect work to begin maybe within 2 weeks, but it could be 4 weeks, it could be longer. But we're on the list. Anything else under old business? Evan? Could you come up and say something, or use your, what do we say, your outdoor voice?
Okay. About the parsonage, me and Mr. Bryan were thinking if we were to tear it down, which not many people like the idea of, but maybe some of them might change their minds, because what if we tore it down and turned it into an outdoor worship area for the summer? It would be a big project, but I think it would help get more people to come to church because they would see it outdoors no matter which way they were going through on either side of the church.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to kind of straddle old business and new business. And that is, we really do need members to step forward, and friends of the congregation to step forward and join our ministries. Facilities could use new members, stewardship can use new members, pretty much all of us could. And so we really need people to step forward and say, I will do this. We're looking at consistory, we're looking at whether it makes more sense to maybe continue for a period of time of doing hybrid meetings. So if people want to be part of something but they can't come out at night, they could join by Zoom, and the people that could come out and meet in person. So we're looking at the technology to see how feasible that is and how well that would go. But we really do need people to come out because we do need to increase our membership. I mean, we all know that. So what I want to do, and I want to share this, I mean, I'm personally thinking that it's probably time that I consider retiring. I don't want to retire, but you know, sometimes you get pushed in certain directions. The challenge is I've worked in my job for over 20 years, and I've created something that I think is really good and has been sustained and blah, blah, blah. But the person or persons who are going to replace me are going to be younger. And they're going to have their own ideas of how they want the programs to run. And I'm not going to have any say. I mean, I'll be gone. And I struggle with that because it's something that I love and I've held on to for a long time. And I think of that in terms of the church. Having been a member, having been confirmed here, and being a member since 12, maybe 13, I don't want to give up certain things because they're memories. It's what I know. It's what I'm used to. It's what I'm comfortable with. But we need to hear from younger families. And what they want for their family and their children might not be what I want. But if we want St. Stephen's to last into however long it's possible, we need to be able to look at ourselves and not always look at other people or other factors, but look at ourselves about why it is difficult for us to maybe change. And someone once said, well, you know, if it isn't broken, don't change it. And I think a lot about that. But then I think about, I never had to use an outhouse, and I surely don't want to use an outhouse. And the outhouse worked fine, but it evolved. I really like air conditioning in my car. I grew up with a car that didn't have air conditioning, but it evolved, and I love air conditioning, and I get real upset when mine breaks and I have to drive into the city. So it's not so much that things are broken, because I don't think they are. It's just that we need to evolve, and that's hard. So I'm asking you to think, just reflect on your own being about what it's like for you to give something up in order for something to grow. And I don't know what that is, but I think as long as we try to hold on so tightly to what we have, we lose the future. Does anybody want to share any thoughts or comments? Yes, Marie. No, wait.
I think I'm the oldest one here. Maybe I'm wrong. You're wrong. I'm the oldest member of church. I was baptized in 1930. Figured out in my 90s. And I've seen a lot of changes in the church. And I agree with you. We're dealing with a lot of young people that are used to not having things.
thank you.
My dear husband 6 years ago. But I mean, I don't want to go into a lot of things, but I think our society is different. We're in a spoiled society, the way I grew up.
Thank you. I appreciate your willingness to share your thoughts.
I don't think we'll change people. I have changed my views on those. When they first, you agree with me? Heather's very close to me. She knows how I feel. But I feel we have to go along with the young people that are growing, and we want to don't want to lose our church. I don't want to lose the parsonage. I spent a lot of time over there.
Okay.
I was here through 11 pastors,
Well,
and I knew everyone very well.
well, again, thank you very much for sharing that.
I want to share that. I don't want to go into a lot of detail.
Okay.
Into enough, but I mean, I would like to see every pew filled up every Sunday, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, we're going to get there.
But even if they don't come, they should give financially.
Okay.
I mean, the church has been here, and when I look around Tennessee and see people
Right. And we are,
for sale, that has hurt me.
okay. And I just want to thank you again. I appreciate that. Thank you. She mentioned good health. St. Stephen's is in really good health. So I don't want anybody to think that we're not in good health. We are in good health, but that can change overnight, and so we want to maintain that, and we want to get stronger. Bob?
My thought is not change through subtraction. Keep what we have, but look for ways to add to the way we do things. Are there ways out there we can do things better? Can we involve the community better than we have? You know, reaching out from our walls. People come to church for various reasons, to soothe their tough feelings, bad week, and so forth. I think another way to look at church is to reach out beyond our walls to make connections with the surrounding community, to build relationships. And through building relationships, I think that's how we move to the next level. I think that's what Christ did when he was talking about building relationships. So it's not keep what we have that's good, keep evaluating it. It kind of goes around in a circle. You start with an idea, you build upon it, and then you get to the end of the circle and you look for ways to keep improving. So I think that's kind of what we have to look at. Keep what is really good. No one's asking you to give up anything, but look for ways to add to what we do.
Okay, thank you. And I think when Wendy showed the slideshow, we have begun reaching out in the community by being visible, by being out on the lawn and having people come by doing things. Even during the pandemic, we were visible. Any other thoughts? Wendy, excuse me, Marilyn.
Bev, thank you for this meeting. This has been the most encouraging and thought-provoking meeting we've had in a long time.
Thank you. Other comments, concerns? Lucy.
I need to get my steps today.
Bev, I have two concerns. One is, I think one thing that can maybe help to get people in the church more involved and on committees is to, in the past we used to post minutes of meetings, and I know we don't do that anymore, but maybe provide links to minutes from meetings so people can see what's going on, and maybe, oh, they look at it and they say, oh, this is going to happen. I can help with that. Whereas, I mean, to say it on a Sunday, and you're not reaching everybody, or everybody might not be quite sure of what it involves. But I would like to see minutes of meetings published. And like I said, it could just be a link on the emails that are sent out to our members. The other issue is something that I've mentioned before. I think with all of the technology that we have, what's going on in the world, hacking that's going on, some people have even been hacked on Facebook. I think the church needs to establish a policy on technology and its use. It could be the website, it could be Facebook, it could be using technology here in church, it could be computer usage or emails, what's appropriate, not appropriate. We don't have a policy, and I think it's about time we do develop one. Okay, thank you.
I think those are two great points, and we are working actually on both of those. We haven't met, I mean, most of the ministries haven't met during the pandemic, and those who did, we haven't posted the minutes simply because the church building was closed. So yes, definitely posting minutes would be helpful. I know Mike has talked about, and we will revisit that now that the church is open and much more freer, I guess to say, is that we're thinking of inviting the ministries, if not every Sunday, every other Sunday, a ministry to come up and just say, this is what we're doing, just very briefly. But if you're interested, join us. If not, for the full committee, if you don't want to be on the planning committee, so to speak, you want to just be part of that activity, you'll know about it in a very timely fashion. So we're aware of that, and that's part of our reawakening. How do we do that? The issue of technology, we don't even have technology in our bylaws, because the bylaws were written way before anybody ever conceived of technology in the church. So we are beginning to look at what that looks like, and we know that we need a policy, and we also need procedures and guidelines on who does what and how it's vetted and all those kinds of issues. So it won't happen next month, but it is definitely something that we're aware of and that we're working on. But thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else? Are there any announcements anybody would like to make? Pastor Jeff, do you have anything?
Chair.
Excuse me?
Ministry chairs.
I can't hear you.
We're in need of chair people for two ministries. Why don't we ask
Yes, in
about that?
addition to needing members, we are looking at needing a chairperson for facilities and for stewardship. And being a chairperson means that you facilitate the meeting. It doesn't mean that you have to do all the work. That's why you have other members. It means facilitating it, organizing it, and delegating. So, please give it a thought. And if you want, you don't have to be a chairperson for the rest of your life. You can say, I'll do it for a year. And then revisit it every year to see whether you'd like to continue. But we are looking for that. And again, please let me know if you're interested, if you'd like to come to a meeting and just kind of see what one ministry does versus another. Let me or any member of consistory or Pastor Jeff know. I feel like I keep turning my back to the people on the side. And I just noticed Colleen, so I won't put her on the spot. But we do hope to have another ham dinner this year. We've talked to Terry, we've talked to Dave, we're going to talk to Colleen, and hopefully, that was a thumbs up, right? Okay, so hopefully maybe sometime in the summer or early fall, we will do it. It'll be a different time than we normally do because of the virus. But we're looking at doing that. So that's a good thing too. Again, it's all the reawakening of things that have kind of been static for a while. Does anybody have anything else they would like to share? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Monroe? Your hands went up simultaneously. And Betsy is the second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The meeting is adjourned. And thank you very much for coming out, and I hope you can